First exposure they ever had. They've been
like
I've been
Tucker
saying
Carlson
it for
says.
years.
Tucker
That
Carlson
fucking
says
Churchill.
he says some wild shit, like aliens. Like it's like, dude, listen. There's some really weird shit flying around, and aliens might be real, but they also might not be. All right, so
we're about to get disclosure on that with everything else.
Yeah.
RFK just got approved today. That was a big one. Tulsi
That is
Gabbard,
huge.
Anna Paulina Luna. They're going to be declassifying
And
a lot of
RFK,
stuff.
Myron just dropped a post where he said, now that RFK is confirmed, I'm sure that he's now finally going to come out and admit that the Jews killed his father and killed his uncle. It's like, guys, look, RFK
Yeah, what's going to happen when it comes out and the Jews
RFK Jr.
didn't
is
kill
on
it?
RFK Jr. is on tape saying he doesn't know if the guy who actually shot his father. It's hard to believe that the guy who shot his father, right? Because they have a two-shooter theory. If that's going to come out in the files, right? Look, here's the thing. I trust Trump, right? I've been a very big Trump supporter, but I also call Trump out when I don't agree with him. One thing I will say, I don't think that I've ever seen Donald Trump say he's going to do something and then not do it.
Right.
So if he says he's going to release the files unredacted, I believe him. So when those files come out, if they don't say the Jews did it, these people are just going to turn on Trump and they're going to go, Trump, look, it's a conspiracy. It's like, no,
they're
dude,
covering for the Jews again.
It's like, dude. So anyway, we'll see. I think it's going to be within the next few days, maybe a week, because they put a 2-week deadline on it last week.
I'm super excited to see what happens Saturday because Trump already said there's going to be hell to pay, and Hamas already said they're not releasing the hostages. But this is a great segue to bring in our next guest. He's in the green room right now, getting all set up. I'm gonna bring him in, and I'm gonna put you guys both in these little boxes, and boom, we got Mudar Zahran here with us. Mudar, welcome to the Adam King Show. He's a regular guest of the Adam King Show. And Mudar, this is Zach Misfit Patriot, who we've been chopping it up about a lot of things here, and really great stuff. First of all, how you doing? Where you're in London, and welcome.
Absolutely in London. Glad to see you both.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, sir.
I think he's trying to get my box situation taken care of here.
Yeah, give me 1 second. So, Mudar, I wanted to have you on because, all this stuff happening with, Palestinian refugees, the removal of the Palestinians. We hear such a one-sided approach to this issue when it comes to, everything is like, how could Israel do this? Like, this is like the worst thing that ever happened. But then there's you on the internet who makes these bold claims that this is the greatest thing that can happen to the Palestinians, bringing them to Jordan to overthrow the king of Jordan and create a sovereign Palestinian state. So I wanted to have you on, and I thank you so much for joining us. And I wanted to talk about it. So I'll let you take the floor, and maybe you could explain to the audience who might not know who you are a little bit about your background and why you believe that Palestinian relocation to Jordan is such an important thing for the real bulk of the Palestinian people.
My name is Mudar Zahran. I'm the Secretary General of the Jordanian Opposition Coalition. I am the sole representative of Jordan's Palestinian majority, almost more than 11 million people. I represent the largest bloc of Palestinians anywhere. Abbas in the Nashtaqim, the West Bank, Judea and Samaria, represents barely 3 million people. Hamas controls barely 2.2 million people. The sole representative of 11 million. I have enough credentials to prove the merit I'm claiming, including having worked with the U.S. For the U.S. Department of State. I've worked with them in critical places. It was a critical job. I've handled material that I can't even talk about by any chance, and I have had security clearance that the average American could only dream of, in the sense that I've been around U.S. presidents, U.S. First Ladies, U.S. Secretaries of Homeland Securities, U.S. Secretary of State, Congressman, Head of Commission, all of them. I've seen them all, sat with them all, and spoke to them all. That said, I hold quite enough qualifications, theoretical qualifications, including a PhD on Arab-Israeli conflict. But when someone starts flashing their expertise and their history, I usually get quite turned off, because the so-called experts we see in television have proven to be worthless. Evidence of that is how they've been terrorized and how the Arab-Israeli conflict must be solved. Let's be
I
clear
have to
here.
take this call real quick.
Go on.
Let me be clear. The reason of the Arab-Israeli conflict, the reason Palestinians are a problem to themselves and a problem to people, because they have been dealt with unfairly. Palestinians are some of the very few peoples on earth who still do not have a country. Making it more simple for the average American, there was a country designated by the British called Palestine. That country extended of what covers both Israel and Jordan today. It had Palestinian citizens who were both Muslims and Jews, and they were also Christians. Those people were all Palestinians. 1948, the Britons left, and before that, 1921, the Britons decided to give 78% of the land to the Arabs as their homeland. And the only one they knew who could give him that as the leader of that sheikhdom or tribaldom was a Saudi king, not even a Jordanian or Palestinian king. Fast forward 1948, there's the war. You can go into a lot of details, but to keep it simple, the Palestinians, Arab Palestinians or Muslim Palestinians, they already, according to the law, to the Jewish League, sorry, according to the predecessor of the United Nations, which is the World League, United League, the United League of Nations. It's legally, from a legal point of view, the Palestinians already have a country. That country is called Jordan. It's 78% of British Mandate Palestine. It's more than 95% Palestinian. Some argue that no, 95% is a lot. Well, you need to do your homework first. And I'm an academic. I did not just bluff about numbers. There's a cable by U.S. Embassy Amman that was leaked by WikiLeaks, and I promise to keep it quick. So for those who keep asking, the cable states that only 30% of Palestinians in Jordan are registered with the UNRWA, and that number is, I forgot, was it 1.8 million up to 2 million? And that was in 2008. So when you do the math, how many Jordanians were there, and you add up the 2 million Palestinians and make them 100, you find out that Palestinians are 95% of the population. So here's the question. We have a country. We have a capital. We have a football team, soccer team. We have a passport. We built the country from nothing. Jordan is a marvel for a poor country. When you visit Jordan, it looks way much better than many developed countries. Definitely the buildings definitely look better than Europe, by all means. It's the Palestinian innovation. We are proud that we are called the Jews of the Middle East. The Palestinians, some people come and say, oh, the Arabs don't want the Palestinians because the Palestinians are troublemakers. Well, whoever says that is an ignorant idiot, because the Palestinians are known to be, this is the term, Jews of the Arabs. We have built the entire healthcare system, education system, and even the army of the country of Qatar and Kuwait. We have built the educational system, health system in the United Arab Emirates. Fast forward, this is the reason Arab countries don't want the Palestinians to leave and to their country, Jordan. Because if they leave, the Arab-Israeli conflict would end. And
Right.
they do not want the Arab-Israeli conflict to end. The Arab-Israeli conflict has been very profitable to the Arab regimes, very profitable to those who don't want peace, very profitable to arms these. I mean, come on, look at the Ukrainian Russian conflict, how much wealth it has brought on the evildoers. Now, think of a conflict, a biblical conflict between Islam and Judaism that has been in position for good will over, I think, 100 years now.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about the money. Look for business. Arabs, if the Palestinians return to Jordan, there will be no conflict. And
So
Arab regimes want conflict.
So I just want to throw up on the screen really quick. This is the Palestinian and Jordanian flag. Just so people know, it's the exact same flag. I always joke around that that little star is because that's the capital of the Jordanians, of the Palestinians. You know, the one with the star is the Jordanian flag. The one without the star is not the is the Palestinian flag. So, you know, these cultures are so similar. 11 million Palestinians living in Jordan, 1 point something million non-Palestinians living in Jordan.
Actually, less than 750,000, of which 300,000 Egyptians and Iraqis, 60,000 Syrians. So when you count the so-called non-Palestinian Jordanians, they're barely at best 400,000 people.
So, in order to overthrow the king of Jordan and to make regime change, um, without U.S. backing, it's extremely difficult. Look at Kurdistan and their quest for independence. Um, how do you see the situation in Jordan resolving itself to free Palestine? And how do you see the situation in Gaza playing into that to create this kind of desired reality that you want to see in the future?
Well, before we get to the facts, I will tell you the official U.S. government position. The U.S. government would never engage, ever, in overthrowing an Arab regime in particular, including the hostile Arab regimes.
What about
Throwing
Saddam Hussein?
that was the lesson learned.
Uh-huh.
They've never gonna overthrow regimes ever because they learned at $8 trillion cost with interest. So it's like pretty much a policy. They have learned that they're not gonna do it. But this is where we come. We're not expecting a handout from the United States government or the United States
Mm-hmm.
people. We will throw him. We will throw him away. The problem is the corrupts who are on his payroll, who keep protecting him.
Mm-hmm.
So with the fact that Trump is in office and he's not going to allow state secretary, not state, like secretaries of the government, senior U.S. intelligence officers and others to literally receive bribes from the king, it makes him very, very vulnerable.
So you're
Let
saying
me
that this
repeat
is
to
now the
you.
time. You're saying that this is now the time for the Palestinians to rise up in Jordan.
Absolutely. And the fact that the leadership in the United States is acknowledging that Jordan is really de facto Palestine. Trump is not saying it, but he's
Also,
saying they
Egypt.
should.
I thought it was very funny and peculiar how he said Egypt and Jordan should take them because that's where they came from originally in 1948. I mean, not
Well,
not all. There were Palestinians in the land of Israel, but you know, there's so many, like so many Al Masris in Gaza. You
that's the
know,
minority. That's the minority. Let me be clear. Let me set the record straight. Especially for Jews watching you. This is a special message for Jews watching you. Trying to state that Palestine doesn't exist is not going to help the cause because just 53 years ago, United Arab Emirates didn't exist, nor did Qatar. And just 70 years ago, Kuwait didn't exist. And just 120 years ago, Belgium didn't exist. So it's all fake names drawn by the colonizers and the occupiers. So you have to accept it, or else they're going to start calling out names of other countries. Like Lebanon didn't exist just 85 years ago. It was the mountain of Lebanon and Syria suddenly became a country. That said, let me be clear about who the Palestinians are. The Palestinians, the majority of Palestinians, are Jews who converted to Islam. This is one of the most ignored facts. I can go on a roll about how to prove the Palestinians are are actually Jews, but University of Hadassah DNA study shows 82% of Palestinians are Jews. Palestine has always been a Jewish majority country. It has never received any significance. Jerusalem was not a most revered city, and it has very few Arab or Muslim dwellers. The various Ottoman and Muslim caliphate did not pay a lot of attention to Palestine because it's a country with a small population and a part of the Ottoman Empire which only had one significant spot. The only significant spot was Gaza. Gaza was a seaport used for the Mediterranean. Everything else, Haifa, Jaffa, was not that important. So there was no Arab Islamic interest in that land until there was a rise in the Zionist movement, and the Ottomans realized they might lose the country and started converting my ancestors and others by force or by high taxation, usually incredible taxation. That said, most Palestinians are Jews who converted, and their DNA can speak for it, and their habits today, their rituals today, like circumcision on the eighth day, yada, 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 prove it. That said, who are these so-called Masris and the immigration? Let's be clear. The major cities when the Jews under the Britons entered the country, the Western Jews, the Ashkenazim, they brought a lot of business, prosperity, healthcare, things that never existed in the Middle East. Therefore, there was immigration. That immigration went only to the major 4 or 5 cities. And it wasn't that significant because there wasn't enough time of British rule. Less than 35 years. That said, this is where you find people like Al Masri and so forth. They are usually from Shechem, and I know we don't have plenty of time, but I have to say this: most so-called Arabs in Jerusalem are from Morocco.
Morocco.
They even speak Morocco. They speak in a different dialect than Palestinians, and the average Palestinian, it's a racist view, but they don't consider them Palestinians. The only true Palestinians are the Falahim, which Ben Gurion makes reference to them in his point. They are the peasants, the villagers, and those are really,
what is
really,
that name
really
again?
Jews.
Say that.
Falahim, peasants,
Falahim.
Falahim. I am a Falahim. They are 90% of the population self-identifying as Palestinian, and most of them are Jews. Most of them look Jewish, act Jewish, even in business, even in tradition. They are Jews. Now, Gaza, fast forward to Gaza. Gaza, the majority of Gazans are refugees who fled from other areas in Israel and Palestine in 1948 and 1967. The minority, the native Gazans, to be honest, are Egyptians. They speak in a different dialect. Their food is complete, their cuisine is completely different from the rest of Palestinians. We're not on a lesson history here. This is what we have today. Palestinians have a state. The only one denying that the Palestinians have a state is the king of Jordan, because he's a foreign king.
Yeah,
A
they are.
U.S.
They are
Amman,
Jordanian.
yeah, a U.S. Amman intelligence cable describes the king and his family as non-Jordanian, small family. That's why they keep using minorities in Jordan, foreigners and minorities, to rule the country. It's simple. If it's not broken, why do you want to fix it? We have a country. It's not a voice in the wilderness.
Mm-hmm.
I've published that, I've posted that on Twitter, and I've spoken about it on Israeli television. There is
What?
U.S. Embassy Amman cable, which proves that Palestinians in Jordan do not want to ever return to Palestine or Israel. They want to stay in Jordan. They just
Why do you?
want compensation.
Why do you?
Compensation.
Why do you think so many people don't accept the fact that a lot of the Palestinians are Egyptian and Jordanian?
Yeah, I think
Well,
you missed
you've missed what we were talking about. The minority are very less than 750,000 Egyptians.
Gotcha.
But that said, they have a country, they have a place to go.
Mm-hmm.
They have a place they can call home. They refuse that because the same reason the war and drugs doesn't end. The
Yeah.
same reason the war on terror doesn't end. The same reason a lot of things would not end, because there's a
it's
lot of
profitable to
benefit,
the powerful.
profit to
That
the powers
that
that
was my
be.
That was my
I,
Yeah.
question.
I wanna pause for a second and thank the audience. We got a big audience brewing, and it's really great because the sensors are all over us and the algorithms are all over us. So I want to just thank the audience for showing up, and I want to say, please share the link, get this broadcast out, because some of the information that we're covering will never see the light of day. It is not wanted by the powers that be. And this is the real story of the Middle East. And if we want to end war, and if we want to make a peaceful and prosperous Middle East for everybody, this is the story. This is the real facts that need to happen in order for that balance of power to exist. So please share the link. Everybody, just hit that share button. Share it on your timeline. Let your people know. Even if you got 20 followers, let them know that it's going down on the Adam King Show. So, Mudar, we want to see, I want to see, the Jewish people want to see largely a Palestinian state in Jordan. How do we acquire that? Is it an armed conflict? Is it a peaceful? How do you envision this state being born and the king, the Saudi Hashemite king, being deposed?
Well, the the best thing about this king is he's a self-destructive man. The fact that he's denying the return of Palestinians into Jordan at the moment, the fact that he's mingling with all the wrong suspects, like for example his open alliance with Iran. Let me repeat, the king's overt alliance and partnership with Iran. He's not shy about showing it, in fact showing it off. His alliance with the Muslim Brotherhood in Jordan, he puts him in, while in almost Arab countries they go to jail. In Jordan, the king puts him in the parliament, and a parliament he actually rigs the elections and chooses who goes there. So this guy is self-destruct. It's done everything to self-destruct himself. His son is not popular, doesn't have the mental capacity. I'm not trying to insult him. The boy has certain issues, certain the crown prince, so he will never be king. And there's also his sexual preferences. I'm not going to talk about him. I have nothing against
You mean he's a
people.
groiper?
He's known to be bisexual, and this history will not help
So he's
him
not
become the
full
king of
groiper.
Jordan.
He's like part groiper.
Is
He's
the current
bisexual. It's an own thing. Like everyone who has ever dealt with him, and this is not something that the Jordanians are willing to accept. In addition, the king, has turned. This is the most important thing. We're dealing with a new America. America is not going to accept burdens, people who cost her money for very little gratitude. And in this case, the king has cost American taxpayers so far more than $100 billion, and they got nothing in return. So he's in a very weak spot. We're doing our all, inner work to get rid of him through peaceful means. All we want then is for the United States not to oppose. And I don't think the way Trump does things is going to oppose. He supports the king, by the way. He likes the king, by the way. Just to be clear, he would never support regime change in Jordan. But I don't think he's willing to send in his tanks to oppress a revolution in Jordan. I'm playing this very well. As leader of the opposition, I'm playing chess. Other people are playing checkers, like the king himself. And all I can say is watch.
So
Patience yields benefits.
So, Mudar, a few days ago, the king of Jordan made an announcement that if the Palestinians are attempted to be relocated in Jordan, that he will declare war on Israel. How do
Mm.
you see that playing out into your favor? Because it's clearly that's clearly not a contest. I think Gaza was a more difficult challenge than Jordan would have been for Israel.
Well, let him say whatever he wants. The fact is, he exposed himself multiple times. Um, it started, America began noticing who the guy is 10 years ago. But the peak was when, upon Trump's election on the 3rd of November 2016, three American Green Berets were butchered in cold blood in Jordan. And the king openly protected the killer, and the killer was telling everyone in the media, I carried out orders given to me by the Jordanian army. So this is where it began. Tulsi Gabbard was the one who looked after this case. I was involved in it with the families. I can go on and on and on, but listen, put yourself in Trump's shoes. Put yourself in any American's shoes. Americans who need the money badly, the American people, with veterans sleeping on the street, homeless, very, 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 a very unproud thing for America. We have a foreign king who was exposed to have real estate in Malibu alone worth more than $100 million, three mansions next to one another. A foreign king who was caught with a mere chunk change, pocket change of $670 million in one bank in Switzerland. And this guy is begging you always for money. And he was caught, one of his men, several of his men were caught smuggling weapons into terrorists in Israel. So he was caught selling American weapons to ISIS, American weapons he got for free. And this was published all over main media, mainstream media. Was caught selling American ammunition to ISIS. Was caught selling Toyota trucks to ISIS. So this guy has quite a rap sheet. The only thing is, we're waiting for the right time, and one has to be patient. You saw how much pushback and fight Americans have to put in the wrong country. This is the wrong country, and those are people with democracy and the Second Amendment, and they still have to fight for their rights. So it wouldn't pay me. I'm 51. I don't care when it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. If I give my life away for it, it's worth it.
What's
So
the election system like over there? Is it are there elections coming up? Oh, did I
no,
lose you?
keep going, guys. I got the.
Well,
So is there an election coming up? Are you is it something in the works, or is it more like you'd have to overthrow him?
we have to overthrow him through peaceful means. We have to overthrow him. He's now weak, and he's dealing with a huge block. His family is less than 70 individuals. The army hates him now because the army is poor. They can't feed their own families. Country's collapsing, and the United States. This is the prettiest thing. The intelligence agencies in the United States are getting purged with the new CIA director, with Elon Musk in the government. The intelligence agencies in the United States who have protected and tolerated Abdullah for too long, the King of Jordan for too long, at the expense and the interest of the American people, they're not going to tolerate him anymore. Let me be clear about something. If Americans got to learn how much foreign entities and foreign governments, how much power they wield in their capital, Washington, D.C., they would be very pissed.
Oh,
Many,
we are. Some of us have an idea. Some of us actually do.
yeah.
Guys, I'm going to bring in our next guest because Cam Higby is with us, and Cam is really a leading activist and emerged as a real massive voice supporting Israel on the internet. So I'm really grateful that he got to join us today. This is for real the Zionist Power Hour. And Cam, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Cam, Mudar, Zahran, and Zach, Misfit Patriot. And we're basically talking about Palestinian relocation to Jordan. Mudar is the main opposition leader to the King of Jordan. Some would call it treason. Others would call it revolution. We're very blessed to have him with us today. And I wanted to create a space where you and Zach and others, including the audience, can reach out, ask him questions, because he wants to see the Palestinians relocated to Jordan. That will help the Palestinian cause in Jordan. So feel free to ask questions. Welcome to the show. And Cam Higby.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Yeah. I've been watching. I totally agree with you as far as Jordan being a Palestinian state effectively. I talk about this all the time, but nobody else seems to know about it or care about it, that Jordan was initially a part of the British Mandate of Palestine, or that's Israel, and it was cut off and given to the Hashemites by Winston Churchill.
Absolutely true. It's most convenient for the powers that be to keep using the Palestinians as fodder, basically, to stir trouble in the entire Middle East.
Do you think that
And
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Do you think that the reason why the Palestinians are even in Israel strategically is to continue this conflict? Do you think that that's part of it?
It's absolutely what you said, and on top of it, you need to know who's at play here. It's the oldest trick in the book. You create a conflict and you support both sides. So nobody is allowing Israel to win or take out Hamas until recently, and nobody's allowing the Palestinians to win. The same European Union entities, they would meet with the Israeli Prime Minister, announce support for Israel, and at the same time finance Hamas itself with money, finance the Palestinian Authority terror regime with money, and also finance the king. Let me please be clear. One of the key things that you need to look at is the map. A map always tells you what's going on. There is something in the military, and I don't know if any of you is an ex-serviceman. There's something in the military called the point of gravity. The point of gravity of the world is the Middle East. The point of gravity of the Middle East is the Levant. Levant, for those who may not know the term, Iraq, Israel, Syria, Palestine, Lebanon, Jordan. The point of gravity of the Levant is Jordan. Jordan is the most important country in the world when it comes to point of gravity and stability of the world, believe it or not. That's why the King of Jordan has been incredibly protected by the globalists. Example, you can go on American TV, criticize Saudi Arabia, beat the crap out of Israelis, and even say anti Semitic stuff against Jews, and you still get away with it. One word, and I've tried, one criticism, one bad word, not even bad word, one negative opinion about the King of Jordan, and you automatically get banned from all for all American mainstream media. He is protected, he's pampered until recently. Now he's dealing with America, and this is the bigger thing. America is a good, having grown up in the United States, America is a power of the good. This is not kissing up to Americans. This is a fact. Americans have produced a lot of things for the world. Americans have done a lot of good into this universe. Americans led by innovation. Americans killed the Soviet Union. Americans are good people, and their country represents beautiful, good things. This is why they hate your guts. Because if given your own way, if you're not controlled by foreign powers, by globalist schmucks, by all of those people, America would do good to the world the same way Trump is doing good to the world. And let's just look at one example. There was a fully, meat grinder taking place in Syria until 2017. Trump took over and it stopped since then. The lives of 2 million Syrians has been saved because in the past, before Trump came, 2 million Syrians got killed. Imagine if the conflict had stayed. The conflict didn't stay. So this is one example of what America can do. So we can only play for that blessed country. I call it God's country by all means. And there's a lot, I don't want to waste your time talking about America, but there's a lot they hate you about.
Right.
One of them.
What I
One
would
of them
like,
is family value. Family
what,
values. Americans are westernized, okay, but they love family. They don't want family. Americans believe in freedom. They have the Second Amendment. They have their guns. Nobody can enslave an American. If the American government, God forbid, wants to enslave you, you would die first. I grew up in New Hampshire. Live
they,
free or die, license plate.
The
And on
thing that
top of
makes
it,
us the
this is
freest country in the world. It's the reason that we're the freest country in the world is because we own 40% of the world's 1 billion guns. We have the largest army in the world, and they're not even in the military. That's why we're the freest country in the world.
Also secluded. There's an
I,
ocean between us and anyone to do harm to us.
Correct.
yeah, that's absolutely true. On top of it, this is something, and I need Americans to listen to this. The standard American value is anti-woke.
mhm.
Girls grow up, 16-year-old girls growing up shooting shotguns and AR-15s. Boys are taught to be men in a normal family setup. No woke, no nonsense, no gender identity crisis, no bullshit. The average American family raises even girls to act manly and act strong. This is everything the globalists don't want about America. This is why they hate your guts.
They want to destroy the nuclear family because it's easier to separate, and they want to destroy religion because it's easier if you look to the government to become the thing that brings all of your needs. Right? If you
You
have
know,
a family, you don't need the government. If you have self sustainability, you don't need the government.
what's very interesting about this too is this is the exact same thing that the Husseinis and the Khalidis did to the Fellahim, right? The Fellahim cared about
Yeah.
their families, their tribe, and their village in that order. They didn't care about national politics so long as it didn't affect their ability to cultivate agriculture. And the Husseinis and the Khalidis, after working for the Nazis, came in and convinced the farmers in the British Mandated Palestine they needed to revolt against the Jews, and that's what caused the 48 War, at least the first phase of it. Same thing.
Well,
So
you're a very informed man, my friend.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And I just I dropped this thing for you to show you that the pattern is actually industrial. You can see it in every country, and it keeps telling me, that whoever's behind it are the same people. The Khalidis and the Hosseinis. What's so interesting about them? Both are not Palestinians. Both are Moroccans. They're from Morocco. The
Mhm.
Hosseini family, which was attached to the Nazis and before that the British, they messed up everything. And I'm going to quote something here. I'm just, 1948, when there was a war, they called for Arabs to enlist in a army to fight the Jews and liberate Palestine. And the war was breaking. There were people shooting, people getting killed. Only, only 4,000 people out of 680,000 enlisted, and less than 100 showed up.
are you talking
In
about
19
Qadr al-Husseini's Army of the Holy War?
No, it's the Arab Legion, the Jordanian Arab Legion called for volunteers. Less
Yeah.
than 4,000 signed up and less than 100 showed up. So people didn't want to fight. In
Hajj Amin al Husseini.
1967, yeah, yeah. The 1967, the Palestinians also didn't fight. The Palestinians today in the West Bank and Gaza, they just want to survive. And I'm not going to get into that because we have quite incredible brainwash in the West Bank, Judea and Samaria. It's become crazy, and this connects to the bigger game, and everything's connected. The bigger game today, the Muslims, my people, I'm a Muslim, they are being used as a destructive tool by the powers that be. They are a tool. Muslims think, radical Muslims, when they blow up a building, blow up a bus, knock down you know, someone, they think they are moving on their own behalf for Islam empire. In fact, you are just a useful idiot being very carefully used and controlled to destroy the West and bring it down and cause chaos and balagan, as the Jews say, across the region.
Yeah. I try
So
to use two different terminologies when I'm describing let's just say people who read the Quran. I say peaceful Muslims and then I say radical Islam. And some people, ignorant people, say all Islam is blah blah blah, and I'm like, yeah, all Islam, but there are peaceful Muslims. That's a fact. They do exist. I mean, you're
right.
one of them. It appears. So it's important to remember that when you're talking about these people, you're referring to the people that want to practice Sharia law, the people that chant "Death to America," the people that say first we come for the Saturday people, then we come for the Sunday people. It's a completely
Exactly.
different. It's a completely different faction than your friendly neighborhood Muslim. So that's it's funny that you brought that up and you used that terminology because it's what I use as well.
So we're all
Great minds
active.
think alike.
We're all activists here on the show, and I wanted to bring Zach and Cam with Mudar because I want to enlist them in the Free Palestine movement. I want you guys to be able to say Free Palestine,
Freedom from what though?
with everything you do. We really we do want to free Palestine, and so we have about 20 minutes left of this segment with Mudar. And I want to be constructive. We all get the history. The history is very convoluted. Um, I showed earlier the Palestinian and the Jordanian flag. They're the same thing. established that the vast majority, over 90% of Jordan, is Palestinian. What can we do, Mudar, to help inspire a revolution in Jordan? You have two of the I want to say the biggest, but X suppresses all the Zionist accounts. So these two guys are two of the biggest non-Jewish voices for Israel on the internet. What can we do? What messaging can we put out there? How can we help cause a revolution in Jordan?
Well, first of all, you're not going to help cause a revolution. You're going to help correct the situation where Jordan is an apartheid state. Imagine where 95% of the population is treated like subhuman, not even second class citizen. So it's like a dhimmi state. We live in Jordan like dhimmis in Sharia, second class citizen Christians and Jews. That said, it's simple. It's never been easier. The president, we should all support the president's plan to move Gazans into Jordan, some of them in Egypt, but generally we should acknowledge the fact, keep repeating the fact that Jordan is Palestine. Make Jordan Palestine again.
Mm.
Make Jordan Palestine again. Or is that too
That's good.
simple?
No,
That's the only
very good.
one. Make Jordan Palestine again. We're not going to ask for anything else.
Well, it's
That
funny.
said,
I made a post right after Trump announced that he wanted to move the Palestinians, and I said, "Hey, Trump just freed Palestine," and somebody was like, "How is this free?" And I go, "They're free to leave." That's how he freed them. It's not free Palestine from Israel. It's free Palestine from Hamas and their stranglehold and putting them in a place that they don't really belong. This is the analogy of putting red ants and black ants in a jar and shaking it. It's never going to work. It's never going to work. People need to accept that.
For the next 30 years, until I'm in power or any level-headed leaders in power, and we re-innovate the education system, and we do 3 generations, 30 years to clean their mind of the nonsense and the radical Islam crap that they've been taught. Until then, you need the separation. But after that, the Welsh and the English used to butcher one another. Welsh and the Scots. Today, they're all one country.
Yeah,
Let me be clear about this vision. What's coming, and I want you to actually think about that, especially people like you. We are moving into the federation era. It's coming over the next 30 to 35 years. When President Trump talking about Greenland, Canada, Mexico, and elsewhere, he's not bluffing. Countries need to be federation while keeping their patriotic aspects in order to make the world more livable, less controlled, and break the very tight grip of the globalists. This is coming. This is not ideology. This is in the pipes. But again, about the Palestinians, let's be clear. You wouldn't. Nobody here, I believe, would support ethnic cleansing of the Palestinians out of their land or out of the countries of the places they occupy. But we need the solution. Gazans, I talked to them. I open the gates tomorrow, and I bet you money, any money you wish, not a single Gazan would stay behind. It's a demolition site. It's finished. It cannot actually be fixed while someone is there. There's 30,000 active bombs, including MK-84 bombs weighing 1,000, 2,000 pounds. It's still active. You can get them, ignite them now. So people need to leave, and there's no better place than their country, Jordan. And I'm going to add this on this note. According to the Jordanian citizenship law, every single Palestinian except Jews, any Palestinian except Jews, is born Jordanian. So why, if it looks like a duck, squeaks like a duck, it walks like a duck, swims like a duck, why should we care for a foreign corrupt king telling us it's a donkey?
That's a good
Right.
point.
I want to. What is the rest of Jordan? How do they feel about the Jordanian Palestinians? What's the vibe like? I know during the war in Gaza, out of 11 million Palestinians, only 2,000 Palestinians showed up to protest. That's how much they don't care about the war in Gaza. How much do they care as much as you do about bringing the Palestinians back into Jordan? Is this like a widespread desire amongst Palestinians in Jordan?
20 years ago, there wasn't. Now, thanks to this king and the way he's been treating my people, they would not mind Israel taking over. I've heard a lot of them saying, "Oh my God, we wish Israel would take over Jordan." Things like that. Nothing you can think of is as humiliating as the situation in Jordan for being Palestinian. You can't. You can be an Egyptian visiting the country, and you still would have more rights than a Palestinian. And it's systematic by the king. It's actually biblical, medieval standards, and people are suffering. And they now, because they've seen the real deal, and this is the problem with Middle Eastern culture. We need to Western culture. They balance things. This is where you guys fail to understand us. Westerners think usually about the consequences. uh, Middle Eastern, even Jews included, as Middle Eastern, they think about ego and they think about proving their point. So we usually need to get a serious beating to learn better, to know better. So the Gazans, when we Palestinians elected Hamas in 2006, elected a terror group because they promised that they're going to wipe out the Jews and that they're going to stop the corruption by the Palestinian government. So, how better could have we got it? We're going to get rid of the Jews and become rich, both. Well, guess what? We got neither. The Gazans have been oppressed, killed, raped, systematically raped by Hamas. One of the weapons Hamas uses, which it used very effectively on the 7th of October terror attacks, is rape. They would rape Gazan women, and I have details which would make you cringe. And that said, they now know better than electing Hamas again, and they know better than engaging in jihad. So the majority now, on the other hand, Palestinians in Jordan, to answer your question, they've seen what the king of Jordan is like, and they know Israel would be much better because they visit their families in the West Bank, and they know things are much better there. The only crazy ones, and I have to be clear and honest, the only ones who are they need a good, I don't know, I can't even use the word here. They need a good spanking. Are the Palestinians in the West Bank. Palestinians of the West Bank, they are my people, my relative, my close relatives, my cousin. I swear to God, if given the chance, they would inflict the 7th of October 10,000 times fold.
Right.
Give
Most
them a
people don't know this,
Palestinian
but the
baby.
West Bank has become incredibly pro-Hamas.
Yeah, West
Yeah.
Bank Palestinians poll higher in support for Hamas than Gazans do.
Isn't the Gazans 70-something%?
No, I think they're both around 50.
The Gazans are
Okay.
they're less than 40% of Palestinians inside Israel.
Yeah, but anyone who doesn't support Hamas probably supports like Fatah. So either way, I mean, they're supporting.
Well, they're anti-Israel. They call them, settlers and everything like that. One of the arguments that I make all the time is these people that say, "Oh, Israel, go back to they're from Poland, they're from Europe," and I'm like, where were they before that? Right? It's
you want to know something? You want to know something interesting, actually? So Theodor Herzl, the father of Zionism, the reason his idea for Zionism got cooked up is because he went to the Hungarian Congress, and the anti-Semite party, literally what they were called, the Hungarian anti-Semite party, shouted, "Jew, go back to Palestine, Jew, go back to Palestine." And he was like, well, we do say until next year in Jerusalem every year at Passover, so maybe we should, we just got slaughtered in Kishinev. Maybe we should just go back there. And that's what happened. And Zionism was born.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So Cam and Zach, do you have any questions from Mudar while he's here? I think it's a unique opportunity to really get a fresh perspective. What's your takes on the issue of Palestinians going to Jordan? What would you ask Mudar that
I've
to
always
reveal
said
to
this.
the world?
I've always said this. I mean, just as you put it, Jordan is effectively the Palestinian state. There was always this intent to have an Arab Palestinian state and a Jewish Palestinian state. And when Churchill cut Jordan off of the British Mandate, it effectively became the Arab Palestinian state. But unfortunately, the new leadership of Jordan didn't see it that way. So I mean, I totally agree with you. How many I would say how many Palestinians are in Jordan, and how many of them, I think you said it earlier, but I missed it. How many of them are sympathetic to like your view, basically?
Okay, how many are sympathetic to me? Is I'm the only game in town. I'm the only one representing them on television. I'm the only one speaking for their problems. In fact, you can see the you can read the my ripple effect by reading the king's reaction. I'm the only Jordanian opposition figure sentenced to life in prison by the king's military court. There's plenty of them. He gives them a year in jail.
And the
Nope.
king just cut his cord.
There we go.
Yeah,
He's back.
yeah. You mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
In
you're
my
good.
case, he voluntarily gave me life in prison. Sorry for that. Life in prison, which can easily tell you that he fears me extremely. With
Just for
that being the
opposing him.
case, sorry, that being the case, the number of Palestinians in Jordan is 11 million people out of actually 11 million point 7. So they are the vast majority of the country. The Hashemites are a ruling family of 70 individuals, no more than that. So that tells you that they
Wow.
are not they are not even eligible to rule that country. It is simple. Make Jordan Palestine again, and let's call it today.
Yeah. Yeah. My question was going to be similar to Cam's, but would you the to add on to that? Let's say hypothetically you just brought all of these Palestinians in at once. Do you think there would be any conflict between Jordan and the new Palestinians? Is there any cultural clashing that could happen?
This is basically, this is like asking me, do the people of New Hampshire, are they different from the people in Vermont?
Hmm.
Are they different to the people in
So no, yeah,
Massachusetts?
that's good.
They're
That's
not.
good.
They're not different.
Yeah,
Same
that's perfect.
food, mostly Muslims. Same food, same traditions, same appearance, same DNA. It's a myth. It's a line drawn in the sand by the Britons. There was
Gotcha.
never a country called Jordan, never a country called Palestine, never a country called Qatar, never a country called Kuwait. All of those people entities created to establish unrest for 100 years, and that's exactly what the colonial forces got 100 years. And in the case of the Palestinian Israeli or Arab Israeli conflict, they shove Islam, my religion, into the middle, making it more biblical and more worthy of show. So this we gotta get rid of. It's cost Americans a lot of money, a
Yeah.
lot of dead bodies, and let me remind you what happened on 9/11.
Hmm.
Let alone any conspiracy theories or any conspiracy facts. 9/11, Osama bin Laden, right after 9/11, he made a televised speech in which he said that what he did was, quote unquote, until we have peace in Palestine for the Palestinians, you're not going to get peace. So
Yeah.
this conflict has been used against the United States. A lot of you people got killed because of it. A lot of my people got killed because of it. A lot of my Jewish friends got killed. I have a Jewish friend who got killed because of it. And it's time to call this stupid conflict over. Let me be clear. Nobody wants to force the Palestinians inside Israel to immigrate. The
Hmm.
Palestinians in the West Bank, Judea and Samaria, nobody wants to kick them out or ethnically cleanse them. But they will be residents of Israel, not citizens of Israel. You
Hmm.
want to vote? You want a representative, a congressman, congresswoman? Vote in Amman. You'll have one in Amman, but not in Israel.
Yeah.
In
Now
New
somebody.
Hampshire, northern New Hampshire, just let me say this, please. Northern New Hampshire, we had thousands of Canadians. They didn't fight for to free New Hampshire. They didn't want to call New Hampshire New Canada or anything like that because they had a country and a passport.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny you said something about there's no Palestine. Somebody told me, well, I saw a Bible that's 100 years old that says Palestine in it. And I said, well, in 100 years from now, you'll find a magazine that said Bruce Jenner is the woman of the year. So you
Yeah, and
That's
can,
funny.
that Bible only has the word
You're
Palestine in
total.
it because
yeah.
that's a word invent. It's literally It is literally an English adaptation of a Roman adaptation of a Greek adaptation of a
Yeah,
Hebrew word to describe Greek people. It's not
yeah,
just, it doesn't mean the
exactly.
Arab, you know what I mean?
And
It's
some people translate it to invader or settler. So yeah, it's
ancient
not
Hebrew,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. So either way.
But either way,
Well,
like
the Arabs, we use Muslims and Arabs for almost 1400 years. We used to call it Bayt al Maqdis, Bet Hamikdash, the holy house of God.
Oh,
The
interesting.
term Palestine is absolutely Latin, foreign, and it comes from the Roman era. So, and again, this does not discredit Palestinians as people, because there
Hmm.
was no Emiratis. United Arab Emirates didn't exist just 53 years ago. The manholes in Israel with the words written on them, Palestine in Arabic and Hebrew, and Eretz Israel, the land of
Land of
Israel.
Israel.
It's
Yeah.
still written
Right.
on the manholes and the Palestinian pounds. Those manholes are a good 40 years older than the United Arab Emirates.
Hmm.
So it's
yep.
let's stop hypothesizing about who's who. We have a country just like the Muslims in India had a country called Pakistan. 10 million people immigrated from India to Pakistan, and in between, nobody's calling for the right of return now. Let's
Yeah.
end this stupid, expensive conflict.
Should be the
I
right
agree,
of
man.
return to Jordan.
Yeah.
Indeed.
So it is crazy because uh the American woke left and right have like this obsession with labeling Israel this genocidal maniacal government that needs to be erased from the map and be given to the Palestinians. And yet there's an entire like if let's just say hypothetically, given that Israel has 400 nuclear missiles, that Israel gets wiped off the face of the map and doesn't choose to mutually assured destruction the rest of the planet, and the whole place becomes Palestine. What becomes of Jordan? It's just like a whole country for like a few thousand people. I mean, like so the fact that there's so many resources in Jordan, untouched natural resources, so much land, way more land than in the land of Israel, way more space than in the land of Israel, with a vast majority Palestinian population, it's a no-brainer to the West. Mutter, why do you think that the woke right became so anti-Israel so quickly? What was it about this conflict October 7th that on October 8th these people who hated the transgendered and the pink-haired purple-haired people went out and kumbaya'd with all of them and became purple-haired fake MAGA, fake America first people?
Because Israel did the unthinkable. Israel did what would never be tolerated in by the superpowers, by the powers that be. Israel went after Hamas. The Islamists are a protected group. You don't touch the Islamists. The Islamists are protected in Europe. They used to be protected in America. They're protected everywhere. They are the baby of globalism, Islamism, radical Islam. So Israel went after Hamas. You remember all the other times Hamas would kill a few Jews, Israel would fire back. Hamas would literally, and you can hold me responsible for this, literally hide behind children, and I can prove this. I don't need to kiss up to Israel to he's kissing up to. No, I'm telling you the truth. And if you don't like it, you can go to hell and stay there. That said, Hamas would hide behind children. A few thousand Palestinians would die because of that. And then it's over. 4 months, 2 months, 21 days. This time, Israel went all the way.
Hmm.
And Hamas is very important for the globalists. Who is Hamas? Hamas is controlling Gaza. What's Gaza? Why is Trump so obsessed with Gaza? People may ask. Gaza, again, look at the map. Gaza controls the pathway that directs, connects, and provides access of Africa for Africa to America, to Europe and Asia. This is a very critical point. This is a focal point of the entire global map. This point, whoever controls it gets the point of center and gravity to the world.
Hmm.
And
Right.
therefore, what they did is they artificially installed a terror group over there. I hate to say this, but President Bush presided over Hamas coup in 2006, and
Yeah.
somehow, miraculously, Israel couldn't do anything about it because Israel was not allowed to do anything about it. And I would tell you shocking stories told by Fatah people to me. Fatah leader told me how they were surprised that the Americans told Israel not to do anything against Hamas in 2006. So Hamas is controlling that place, and the globalists are happy because they're causing chaos, preventing a lot of other things to happen, which we don't have even time to discuss by having Hamas there. And Israel went after Hamas. You just don't do that.
Hmm.
Hmm.
You don't do that. You just be quiet and let the Islamists do their own thing.
Right.
This is how the globalists want it. That's why they went after you. Whatever happens right now against Jews, against Israel, is carefully planned, generously financed, and very, very well organized. None of it is by coincidence. Example of that, just not long time ago, you found a Chinese student in the protest in California.
Hmm.
Chinese students generally don't engage. I've been to American schools half of my life, and to British schools for two PhDs, and I've never seen Chinese students generally engaging in foreign politics.
Right. It is
This
very
was
weird.
all organized.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, and it's evident in the way that their protests all seem to have these similarities, like the signs that have the yellow signs that have the black bar under it, and then an organization, some NGO organization in like a BLM protest, and then the exact same sign is at the pro-Palestine protest with the same exact sign but a different NGO, and you look these up, and they all go back to the same place. It's
Well,
very well funded and organized.
you want to know the other part of this too is uh, it gets very interesting. So the protests in America, and I've been to a lot of them, are run by socialists.
Yeah.
And the socialists are willing to take money from Islamists to further their goals. It's like a flour mill and a bread factory, right?
Yeah.
Hamas is the flour mill. They export the propaganda to the bakery here in America. The
Yeah.
bakery are the socialists. They make the
Yeah.
bread. They feed it to the idiots at the protests. They become bakers, and then they just continue the cycle of propaganda. Like one can't survive without the other. Hamas needs the commies in the West to export their propaganda to the people, and it's sad. And they're all run by socialists. The most common symbol inside these protests is the hammer and sickle, beside whatever the thing they're protesting that day is, the Palestinian flag or the gay pride flag or whatever it is.
Exactly.
And it's like you
It's
show
the
up.
same.
I show up undercover to these protests wearing a keffiyeh and becoming one of them. And it's like I think I showed up to a free Palestine protest, and all of a sudden they're lecturing us about gay people, and I'm like, what the
Wait a minute. Yeah.
and gay
It's the
people are
only time
oppressed
when
under
jihadis are
capitalism.
sympathetic to
They would be
homosexuals.
yeah, they'd be
Indeed.
Yeah,
if there was any buildings left in Gaza, they would be the first people to be thrown off of them. So that's it's funny how they don't even know what they're protesting. They have no idea. They just know they're supposed to be there.
they find
That's the
out
only
though
thing
that
they know.
it's this thing where it's like you're oppressing America because America's is a capitalist country, and Israel's bad because Israel's a capitalist country that's allied with America, and it's bad because of capitalism, and they just feed into each other.
Correct.
I did this show on the UCLA protests. It's on my Infowars band page called Jew Behind Enemy Lines. And it was actually quite bizarre as we were, because I infiltrated myself into at times I had to pretend like I was a Frenchman. They didn't speak any English, because they came after me. They were like, "Are you a Jew? Are you a Jew?" And but what was so weird, and I got this on camera, and Owen Schroyer did a whole special on it, was that it was like jihadis who clearly didn't go to UCLA and transgendered lining up together, tolerant of each other. And then at the end of my episode, as we're running from the cops to get out of there, we stumbled across a secret meeting and got it on tape of the organizers. Check in with your regional director, and so they were guiding the people as the cops were coming, and it was very highly organized, all adults, not kids on campus.
Oh yeah, were you there
And
the night it got broken up, Adam?
yeah, that was the night that
I
that was
missed
the
that
Jew
night.
Behind Enemy Lines episode. It was Really?
I was there for the riot, but I missed the
There was
the
one
breakup.
moment where I was just like, holy fuck, I got to get out of here. This is so dangerous. Because it was dangerous. They had like these jihadis in full hijab, massive dudes. They look like football players with uh, batons, full armor plates, helmets. They were ready to go and mess up
Dude,
anybody. It was
you should have
scary.
been there. You should have been there the night prior to that when the riot broke out. I mean, dude, it was a medieval battlefield. So there was that construction site inside the encampment on the library, and they just pulled metal poles off the construction site. They're throwing
Oh, I
like
saw the
20-pound C
videos.
clamps over the wall
Right. And the
randomly at
cops walked
people.
out of there and let everybody fight.
Yeah, I was right
I
up
would've-
in it, man. I was recording everything.
That's crazy.
So one thing that I want to talk, we didn't talk about the MAGA Strip, America taking over Gaza, and I want
Gaza
Muddar's
Strip.
the MAGA Strip.
Yeah.
People are calling it,
Mara Gaza. I gotta take a piss, but I'll be right back.
yeah, take your time. Mudar, I wanted to get your take on that. Like, well, how do you feel about America taking over the Gaza Strip, and also, like, where do you feel the Ben Gurion Canal project fits into this? I know that the Suez Canal controls 12% of all global export. It is the main pathway for goods to come from the east into Europe. And I know that the West wants alternative trade routes, and the Ben Gurion Canal project is hot on their list. What's your take on America taking the Gaza Strip and the Ben
Well,
Gurion project?
well, a few minutes ago, I explained the importance of Gaza, how it's actually the focal point of the globe's map, and why it connects, Africa, Europe, and that's a very, very, very difficult corridor, and whoever controls it can wield a lot of power across the world, or at least cause a lot of havoc and obstacles. So it's very important for America that to take that land and put it like not a colony but a protectorate like Puerto Rico, something. I don't know about the
Like a
final
territory.
this territory, but one, I know Gazans don't mind it. In fact, they would welcome it and they joke about it, saying, "Oh, time to become American." I know America will not take all Gazans in there, but would keep a good number of them. To be honest with you, that's my sources confirm that. At the same, this is people do not. There's a secret plan in this whole thing, which people cannot even put their fingers on. China.
Right.
There is, America in the past during the Bush era, they were engaged with radical Islam. Islam does this, does that. Islam is scary. Muslims don't want to take him. Okay, there are radical Muslims who've done incredibly horrifying things and still do to this day, but they can never take down the West. The West is like maybe they can take it down in 100 years, but not today. America now has a very real enemy with fangs, claws, sharp teeth. That enemy is called China. Very people realize how influential China is in the Middle East. They think China is just China trying to sell their own cars and their own stuff.
Right.
China fully controls Iran and the Iranian leadership. China has its own military in Iran. China has a city up to Hormuz Strait, the most vertical strait in the world, where most of the world's oil flows. It's the Chinese military city is opposite right to it, with 40,000 Chinese servicemen and intelligence officers and their families. Most people have not even heard about that. China controls the United Arab Emirates. Even Biden was shocked when he found out that the so-called moderate United Arab Emirates was building a Chinese military base. And that was a huge embarrassment for United Arab Emirates. China controls Kuwait. China is married to Iran and to the Muslim Brotherhood. China controls Jordan through a huge debt which they offered to Jordan, and everyone else didn't even understand why the king accepted the debt, because it's a debt for a gas-powered power plant, while the Israelis were offering gas dirt cheap to Jordan. The king still borrowed $8.5 billion, which is like, this is pretty much like the United States borrowing $1 trillion compared to Jordan's GDP from China and shackle Jordan to Chinese economy for the rest of their lives. Same goes to Egypt. The Chinese control basically Egypt now, and the Chinese president always praises Egypt, praises the Chinese Communist Party, even celebrates Chinese holidays. This is bizarre. The Chinese also have wield a lot of power in Qatar, which funds the Muslim Brotherhood, and they have very close to the Muslim Brotherhood. And the Chinese control basically they're surrounding Israel with Hezbollah, and this is the best kept secret about Assad. Assad, when he was toppled, Assad was very close to China. China protected him a lot. So China is getting kicked from places, and no more important place of them to get kicked than Gaza. So this might explain to some why suddenly the president is interested about Gaza. Some people think that it's another conquest for the real estate developer. No, he can see other things which others cannot put their fingers on. And he has enough intelligence report. And allow me to say this, I'm not anti-Chinese, but I'm just honest.
I am.
China now controls a huge chunk of the Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
China owns Canada. China, I'm not accusing the Chinese government of fentanyl supplies, but I'm saying that the basic
Zach is.
material used for
Yeah.
fentanyl is imported from China. It's public information.
It's all imported
So
from China, and that's why Trump just went after Canada with those tariffs. It's not about Canada; it's about China.
Interesting.
exactly.
You know, guys,
I mean,
so go on. I just wanted to. We have another guest coming in, and this segment went a little bit longer than I wanted to do it. But Mudar, if you want to stay on, I have one of the original anti-Zionists that was going to come on the show. We're going to have a little bit of a debate with here at the Zionist Power Hour. If you want to stay on, I would love to have you meet him. I think that your unique perspective could be a great changing point. I know a lot of his fans are watching the show and have sent me private messages.
Yeah, the chat blew up.
Yeah, the chat definitely blew up. Do you want? Would you like to stay longer, Mudar? I want to be respectful of your time.
Let's rumble.
Okay, I'm gonna put. I'm gonna shrink.
Yes, okay, perfect. So you just defeated your own
first
point. You said the government officials, the sitting prime ministers of Israel, condemned the people you're talking about. So what's your point of them having influence over it? Like, what are you talking about?
Guys, we got lucky and Mudar Zahran
exactly
came back
what
with
I'm
us.
talking about.
Okay, I need to interject here. I missed some of your comments, but I need to put a few dots on the words.
Please.
Yes.
Okay, is Israel a friend or an enemy of the United States? One, how much did it cost the United States to be in Iraq, to bring a stable 70,000 soldiers active in Iraq? $8 billion.
The U.S. government spent $5 trillion on the war in Iraq.
Sorry, $8 trillion.
$5 trillion.
Netanyahu was in Congress telling us to go do regime change.
Okay, he screwed up.
Project for a New American Century, the Zionist neocons tied in with Israel.
We got UFC fighter King Bao joining us too.
But I want to make this point very clear. To occupy or to do even the most minute military operations by the United States thousands of miles away from home is incredibly expensive. Crazy expensive. Israel is very important to the United States because some fools from both sides, Jews and Goys, they think because Jews influential control the world. Well, guess what? Jews can't control a synagogue, let alone control the world. That said, honestly speaking,
your religion comes from theirs.
Honestly speaking,
they control your mind through your religion.
It's the size of real Jersey.
Of control. I don't focus exclusively on AIPAC and lobbies. The religious control is where the real mind control is at. That's how America's controlled with our Christian politicians more than anything.
If you're talking about AIPAC, let me just be clear about something. The most influential lobby in the United States is the Chinese lobby, second by the Arab lobby. The most generous country giving away money, and this is on record and you could verify it, giving money to so-called think tanks in Washington, D.C. is not Israel. It's the United Arab Emirates. The Chinese lobby and the Arab lobby in America is
I didn't claim
way...
APEC gave the most money.